What do you think are the biggest barriers to enter the workforce, to climb the corporate ladder, if you will, for women specifically in this region?
When you talk about the glass wall, what's the glass wall? Is even when women get into senior position, how do they stay and how do you set them up for success? And for me, it all starts with having the company invest and really being adamant about wanting people to succeed and about wanting the diversity. So it really starts with the company. And what does it mean from a company perspective? It means investing in programs. Programs like not just mentorship, but sponsorship, right? Where the person is really pushing you and takes action and supports you. It's about investing in training, like as simple as bias training, right? It's about making sure that the culture itself is set up for women to be able to perform. One of them is flexibility, for example. A lot of reason women drop off is because they suddenly have a family, they cannot clock in, clock out 9 to 5, they need this flexibility. How do we make sure that the company, part of its culture and its value, is to ensure that there is this flexibility? And it's more output driven than 9 to 5 driven, right? It's not, I need to see you, it's not a face kind of a culture, but it's a culture that delivers on output, because we do know that women can deliver, right? In academia, women actually, there's more women that are getting diplomas and graduating than men, right? And also in a lot of great scores. So it's just about how do you set up this environment for them to really succeed.
You know, I think it's interesting that a lot of people look at it like, oh, that's a really great leader, despite the fact that she is a woman. But I think it is because we are women that we are great leaders, because there is something about being a female leader that changes leadership style. How would you describe your leadership style?
100%, and maybe to go back to your exact point, it is about being a woman does add a lot of value. If we take a step back as well, when you look at women and there are so many books, right, that tells you about what are the strengths of women, and there's one that I particularly like, and it's actually about the 12 policies that women do in the workplace. And then there's Lean In, and a lot of people know the Lean In book, but also another book that was written out is Lean Out. And what is Lean Out? It was actually a counter-reaction to Lean In, because it's not about women have to change how they are to adapt to the workplace. No, it's the other way around, right? Because we have great qualities internally that we can bring into the table, right? So, for example, a big thing that always comes out, and this is where we discuss in Lean Out, is the fact that men are better negotiator because they stick more to their point. But actually, at the end of the day, women are better diplomat. So they get everybody they will get you the deal while everybody's happy. And this is something that is more lasting, right? And it's a great book. I would advise anyone to read it. Now, one thing I can definitely say is at Talabat, I'm really happy that we live this culture and the company really empowers women. And today we have 32% of women in leadership, which is, I think I abide more by a servant leadership style. And a servant leadership style is a leadership style where you're here to serve for your people. And I really believe in it, because I think you're as strong as your weakest employee. And my role as a leader is how can I empower my -1 to really push them to do the best job they can. Because if they're doing the best job they can, if they're happy, if they're motivated, then the company will be doing really well.
How do you inspire your team for operational success every single day? It's a big task. To be the leader also means you are the one they call when things are not going so well, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you inspire your team for operational success?
Anything I have. And when people ask me what's your biggest challenge, usually I would say people and business, but it's mainly people, because if people are motivated and people are driven, the business is going well. So biggest challenge is how do you motivate, how do you provide growth? One key things for me is when it comes to people, space is great. The space really sets the tone and sets the environment, but to what I want. At the end of the day, there are certain pillars I abide by. And I believe you cannot force someone to do something, right? At the end of the day, they need to be happy and you need to explain the why. If somebody doesn't know why they're doing something, I don't believe they'll be able to deliver on it. So being very clear on why should everybody work on, for example, operational excellence. Why does it matter that the customer experience is great? Because even if they go and they optimize as much as they want internally with the restaurant, if the user receives his food after 2 hours, he's not coming back, gone, right? So the why. But also then setting clear expectation. which is what they need to do and a clear goal. And I believe part of the leadership also is making sure that you're helping your team focus on things, because if everything is important, nothing is important, right? So how can you help them focus? So setting very clear goal and eliminating things from their to-do list. So sometimes telling them, you know what, you're not going to work on this because it's not that important today, right? The third thing is, and I really believe, is pushing them to have work-life balance. And it comes off a little bit as a surprise, but having people who actually go and enjoy their time and are able to disconnect, when they come back, they're more effective and efficient.
All of this sounds fantastic, but nothing comes without challenges, right? So what are some of the biggest challenges? Because we all strive for that work-life balance, but when you have to answer to stakeholders and you have great KPIs, how do you make it work? Because it's not always realistic, right? And you want to have the best team that is not burnt out and relaxed and creative.
I do believe this is a maybe $1 million question.
Yes.
Because it's so hard. I believe in a couple of things. First, discipline. Making sure you're very disciplined about what are the non-negotiable. For example, for me, exercising is a non-negotiable because I know that if I don't exercise, I cannot give my best. It's a little bit like, you know, when you go into a plane and they tell you, put your mask on first before you put it for someone else. And it's the same with leadership. You should always be able to recharge, right? So, and being very disciplined with your non-negotiable, for example, sports and all of those that resource you. Being very disciplined with prioritization. Prioritizing day in, day out, because there's going to be so many things, especially in a business like Talabat, which is a fast-moving, we're a tech company, right? We're fast-moving, we have innovations that's coming in every day. Like we just launched the robot Talabat, I don't know if you've seen them, and it's just one of the examples of things we're launching. How do you prioritize? Because if everything's important and urgent, so really making sure you prioritize properly. And now another thing I would say that's quite important as well is having the right structure, right? And voicing out if you don't have enough people. And why am I saying right structure as organization structure? Because sometimes, and this is an example where I fell to when I was younger in my career, at some point I was the right hand of the COO. And I was doing so much work and I was like, am I not efficient? And this was the question, because every night I was staying till 10, 11 p.m. and I was getting a lot of work done, but I was like, why am I not able to disconnect? Why am I? And then I realized a couple of years down the line, there were 4 people doing the same job. So it was just, did we have the right structure? Did we really look at this department and see how much task they have, right? And are we properly staffed? Because if every day you're ending up at midnight, either you're inefficient, you can't do the job, or you're understaffed. And I think it's our role as leaders to make sure that we look into that.
As the MD of Talabat, what are some of the biggest challenges you face?
As a tech company, there's a lot of challenges, but again, I would say my first challenge is the people, and how do you motivate, how do you keep the people going, and that's something we already covered. I would say from a tech perspective, it's always fast moving, right? How do you make sure that you're really providing the right focus as a business to everything we're doing? How do we make sure we're really focusing on the big impact project? I think is a big one. And how do we make sure that we are able to really transmit this to the customer? Because if you do everything and you're not really focused as well, the customer can be drowned by it.
What, as a woman, have been your biggest challenges in this role?
I can tell you that interpersonally, as a woman, we do face different challenges than a man. And I see it even in my teammates, right? My direct report, the women they really push for to get things extremely properly done, right? They become really expert in their field. And even once they do, they will downsell what they did. Versus an exact same male colleague wouldn't do half of what she did. And yet, he will oversell his capabilities. My female direct report, usually I know that if I give them something, and this is a generalization, but you can also read it in different books, like Lean In is one of them, for example. You can really count on it being done. While my male direct report, in some instances there's a lot of networking, a little bit of sales happening, a little bit more of, but I think I can do it, and a lot of more bargaining on what do I deserve and what are you giving me, versus the woman is more of, no, I understand, I'm going to be more collaborative. Even from a company perspective, I understand the situation of the company versus man is like, no, this is my value and I want X, Y, Z. So I do see it a lot. And I even felt sometimes women push themselves down. We tend to become super good at what we do to the point where the company wants to keep you there because they don't want to remove you. We don't network enough. We say a lot of sorry and please and excuse me, and we ask a lot of permission, and we're more good student rather than sometimes being bold and going for it. And those hold us back. And if your manager is not aware of the different management style, and he's more of, let's suppose, a communication impression person, he could tend to being like, you know what, yeah, I want to promote this person because they have more self-esteem and self-value. Well, it is not the case. It's just also sometimes how we interpersonally internalize certain tasks or have certain behaviors.
I love that. I think there's some really good advice in what you've just said now for women across the world, in fact, not even just the Middle East.
Yeah.
Moving away from your role as a female MD at Talabat and back to the business, what would you say is Talabat's biggest competitive advantage?
We initially were a startup that started in Kuwait and then expanded to the region. We're in 9 countries, and that is really good, right? Because given that we're in 9 countries, given that we have a local tech headquarter, which is actually here in this office, we have our homegrown tech team, so we have our own product team. We do a lot of localization, which really gives us an edge to start with. So, and this helps us to actually start investing in R&Ds, or trialing new research or pushing on new vertical, because we are leading, the thinking is local and the execution is even hyper local. And even if I take it one step further, even for me as Talabat UAE MD, I have city heads. So to make sure that Abu Dhabi is properly served, I have a city head who's overseeing Abu Dhabi and making sure that the needs and all the demand and the requirements are being served there. So really this hyper locality, I think, is first and foremost. Another thing I would say is the fact that we're also global. With our affiliation with Delivery Hero, who is in 72 other countries, that gives us a very big edge. Why? Because this helps us on bringing best practices from, whether it's from a tech perspective, a business perspective, on a people perspective. We bring a lot of best practices also to the region from other regional players, but also from other global players. And one of them was QSAS and Talabat Mart, for example, which was an innovation that we were able to launch in the UAE, and then also we pushed the QSAS model also in the UAE and across the GCC.
This is dubbed as one of the largest tech hubs in City Walk, right? How does this headquarters specifically fall in line with the D33 agenda?
I don't know if you've seen the Dubai Can. Have you ever seen the water fountains? Okay, there's one outside of the office. So as Talabat, what we're doing is our office is also very environmentally friendly. We are pushing a lot and aligning with the government agenda when it comes to sustainability, hence one of our collaboration with Dubai Can. So we push a lot on those collaboration as well. And on top of it, we also support a lot SMEs. So in Ras Al Khaimah and the Northern Emirates, we are supporting a lot of homegrown projects, but also in Dubai and different Emirates, as well as entrepreneurs. So we work very closely with the EEA, for example, to really support entrepreneurs.
The metaverse.
Yes.
Is Talabat planning to play in the metaverse or no? Like, where's your position on this?
It's a great question. I can respond locally versus a little bit more regionally. We are experiencing, and I can tell you, and this is maybe a little bit of a scoop, I know that locally we had built already a training room in the metaverse for my team specifically. So we are exploring, and we are dabbling into all different kind of technology, even when it comes to AI, right? So even that is being experienced and integrated in our products today. How can it improve the search? How can it improve the users' experience, whether it's on search, whether it's on food finding, grocery finding. So we are going into all different kind of technology and explorations for sure.
My final question for you.
Okay.
What exciting developments do you have up your sleeve for Talabat this year?
So 2023 is a big year for us. We're definitely investing in a lot of technology, and I already kind of touched a little bit upon some of them when it comes to AI, when it comes to robot, when it comes to drone, but also there's also more of the vertical. How do we go more into those different vertical, which is RX, which I am very excited about because I do really believe this could be a game changer for us. As well as, I would say, more on the environmental and kind of giving back part of the society. So there is a lot more work that's being done to how can we give back more, how can we be more sustainable, how can we be part of COP, right? COP 28 that's coming into the UAE this year. So there's a lot of projects here and there, definitely on different fronts, from a technology front, on a vertical front, on more a CSR and giving back front. So
that sounds very exciting. Thank you so much for your time and hosting us in your lovely new headquarters in City Walk.
Thank you for coming. It was a pleasure talking to you.
The pleasure was all mine. Thank you very much, Tatiana.
Thank you.
That was great.